Check the Track podcast, speaking about Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Mm-hmm. That is Josh.
That's right, I'm Josh. Alec is over there. We've got him again.
Aaron's over there.
I'm here as well.
That's right. We are all in areas situated around the microphone.
Approximately close to each other.
Arm's length from Aaron. Arm's length from Josh's knee.
There you go.
Just my favourite bit of that boy.
Alec can touch both of us. I unfortunately cannot touch Aaron.
Each of us from a different Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Boy, there have been lots of Spider-Man movies, haven't there, Alec?
How many Spider-Man movies have there been?
So there's the trilogy, then there's the two Garfield ones, and then there's Homecoming, and then there's this one, so that's 7.
Yep, 7.
Did I do counting?
7 exclusive Spider-Man movies, plus we saw him in Civil War and Infinity War.
Yep.
So, Sony has done all of these films.
That's right.
Sony has pretty much consistently failed since, 2007 to give us a good Spider-Man film?
I think 2 was in 2004.
Yeah.
That's what I meant. So it was pre-2007 is what I meant.
Yeah,
So,
excuse me.
So I guess you could say from 2004, but being harsh on the other side.
I thought the first Amazing Spider-Man was meant to be fine.
It was fine.
That's the word on the street.
It was fine, but then in a way that kind of it was quite annoying because at that point, despite Spider-Man 3, the Spider-Man movies, I know that X-Men was the first big one, but they really set the tone and the aesthetic for all of the big ones to follow. I mean, even something at the point of Infinity War has so much to owe to the Raimiverse.
There was so much Marvel quippage is from Spider-Man, in my opinion. And from those films. And like you said, more so than probably from the X-Men films.
Yeah.
Because they were always sort of a bit darker, I guess, in a way. And a bit
more miserable.
So I thought very highly of Spider-Man as a franchise, so when I walked out of the one with Andrew Garfield, an actor who at that point, erroneously, I liked, I was just a bit like, it was fine, but I want to love Spider-Man.
What didn't you like about the Garfield Spider-Man?
They
wouldn't chat about lasagna.
He hates Mondays as well. As he gets up, he's like, "Oh man,
lay on a couch."
And then
what's
his uncle called?
Uncle Ben.
What, really? Oh yeah, like the sauces.
Yeah,
of course.
That's the joke.
What's the joke?
Have you not seen the picture where Spider-Man is lamenting next to Uncle Ben's rice packet? That's a big thing.
Yeah. So at the point where the Marvel Cinematic Universe, all of the things owned by Marvel, was really kicking off, I understand that Sony was holding on to the rights to Spider-Man for dear life and only made the Garfield vehicle because if they didn't, it was going to revert. Mm-hmm. So that's quite a sad state of affairs for a movie to be produced in.
But that's the thing, but not as well as that. So the first one was made purely because they needed to, and then by the time the second one came out, the Marvel... the MCU sort of had really kicked off, and so the second one, not that I've seen it, but just from the promotional material, was all about Extended Universe. There was apparently it's so thick with sort of
Harry
Sinister
Osborn.
6 references and all sorts of Spider-Man paraphernalia all throughout the place. And obviously then it got cancelled and nothing ever got made from all of that, which is great because none of it should have been.
Absolutely.
And then they finally, unlike Fox, who still sort of kept the Fantastic Four, I think, and they've definitely kept the X-Men, obviously. Sony sort of walked back to Marvel and they're like, well, let's see what we can do together.
Yeah.
And so now it's under some sort of joint tenure, essentially.
It was a great idea.
It was a great idea. It gave us the sort of the average, above average Homecoming.
For me, that film is more than the sum of its parts because it is kind of above average, but I really, really enjoyed it.
Okay, that's fair. I don't look back on it particularly fondly, which is sad, but
fair enough.
I actually really enjoy Tom Holland's Peter Parker a lot more in Civil War and in Infinity War. But much like Doctor Strange, I really enjoy Doctor Strange in Ragnarok and Infinity War, but I had no time for him in actual Doctor Strange.
You prefer him as a part of a cast rather than just the lead of his own movie, which is fair.
Both of them play really well off everyone else, and that's what I want them for. And so after that, then they made Venom, which everyone went and saw, and so they except you two,
except the 2 out of 3 people in this room.
What I mean is it sort of quintupled its budget, and so we're going to
because of perverts. They wanted Venom to do bad things to them.
Oh, really?
People like Venom on the internet.
Oh,
yeah.
Do they like him?
Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense. He's tentacly, isn't he?
Yeah, because he's supportive.
There is actually as well in that film. There is a female Venom with breasts, which is really
that's interesting.
Muscly breasts.
Yeah.
So does she generate the breasts on anyone she takes over?
No. So it is Venom. So Venom takes over Tom Hardy's girlfriend and gives himself breasts.
Eddie, would you fuck me, Eddie?
Eddie's
I'd fuck me, Eddie.
Tom Hardy's just I would not.
Silence of the Lambs.
I mean, I would.
So yeah,
His girlfriend's in there like, oi!
So this long and fraught road intersects with another long and fraught road where Phil Lord and Chris Miller were making Solo a Star Wars story, but they were making it too good and too funny, so got kicked off their project. That got
picked up by a different Disney department. I assume they got kicked out one office and next door.
Yeah.
Actually, so you know how we often describe directors having found people in dumpsters.
The bin.
So instead, what I imagine is that Lord and Miller had just been kicked out. They were walking at the dumpster out the back of Disney, and they found Ari Avad in there, the producer who's been trying to make a good Spider-Man movie for 2 decades now.
That's right.
And they were like, "Oh, come with us."
Yeah. He asked, "Are you two talented?" They said yes. He said, "I'll take your word for it. Let's go make a Spider-Man film."
If I think of sort of people who could make family films, entertainment for all, it's these guys, because they fucking made the Lego Movie, which again, everyone saw.
That's right.
I saw it on a plane.
Did you? There you go.
And I passed out halfway through it, so taking some incredibly strong sleeping tablets to try and get over the jet lag.
You can't talk about your smack habit.
Yeah, on a plane, sparking up. Sir, please don't smoke. I'm not smoking, actually. I'm tooting. It's very different. You fucking nut.
This isn't a cigarette. I'm not disgusting.
Yeah.
So we all sat down. That we've there's been a varying road to this moment, but we all sat down and I think we all watched a good Spider-Man film.
A very good Spider-Man film.
Yeah, very good Spider-Man film.
A very endearing Spider-Man film. Not without flaws.
There's also ceilings and walls that he sticks to. Sorry. I'm feeling punny today.
Yeah, no, I am enjoying it.
I thought it was just lovely, wholesome fun.
Yeah, it was
with enough self-referential kind of
but
in it for the anoraks.
But so much of that stuff that is in it for the anoraks is really annoying. But because it's almost like when something tries to appeal to you too hard, you're like, ugh.
But like you said, there was a little cutaway where it had labeled Earth 616, and there have been 20 something of these films so far, and no one's ever called it 616, which is a big part of the comic book lore.
I've not even read a comic book, and I know about Earth 616 somehow. So there's a little weird Venn diagram between people who read the comics and don't, and I'm in the middle there.
I tell you what,
and I went, I know what Earth 616 is.
That is not a reference I understand. Would you care to?
So obviously there's a multiverse that exceeds throughout the Marvel universe, including Spider-Man. So in DC, it's Earth 1, but I guess Marvel was trying to sort of be coy and undeterminism about it. Just because our Earth is the one we're in doesn't mean
it's not the first.
Yeah, doesn't make it the first Earth. So in Marvel terms, Earth is 616.
Okay.
So you're Iron Man 616 is different from Iron Man 266.
And you know what else I really liked about this movie, guys? So it hung a lampshade on it straight away. It was like, okay, you know this story because everyone does. But this time it was Miles Morales, who I haven't read comics with Miles Morales, but I understand that he is generally accepted as the Spider-Man in the comics now.
He's the ultimate Spider. So they made something called the Ultimate Universe, and it was a way to give new spin, a consistently new spin to all the different comic books. So he's what they call the Ultimate Spider-Man.
Okay. So is he JJ Trek? Or is he the TV series?
Or a Kelvin verse.
Yeah. It's post-Romulus.
He's more like the TV series, because the Ultimate series is fairly long-running at this point. But there is still a Peter Parker. These all run simultaneously. And again, that's sort of what made it feel a bit more comic-y in a way that many other things don't. Is because, unlike in the other ones where whenever there's sort of a big event, it's really foreshadowed, these people were just popping out everywhere. There was, at one point, 3 of them arrive, and they're we all splattered against the multiverse.
That's right, and Beta Spider-Man, the counterpart to Alpha Spider-Man, he literally said at one point, he was when this is standard Spider-Man fare, there's always 24 hours, there's always universes colliding.
So disenfranchised with the whole thing, I love it.
Yeah. It was,
he doesn't even refer to the MacGuffin as what it is, because he knows that it's just a MacGuffin.
Yeah, he calls it
a goober.
A goober. There you go.
And even and then it cuts to later on we meet Aunt May, and she goes, "Oh, you're old Peter," and she calls it a goober as well. So
she does. I thought that was
it's a Peter Parker unified trait. They've given up trying to name the MacGuffins.
It was everyone in this film was really, really versed in living in the Spider-Verse.
Yeah,
and they kind of brought
except Miles Morales, who was an excellent main character and fish out of water. But he had a reason to be a fish out of water, but it was it was his dimension, so everyone had just come to him, and it was a really nice way to do it.
So I thought it was interesting that the film does very much keep going like, oh, you're fed up with origin stories, because each character in the shows go, we've heard this before.
It had its cake and ate it, didn't
but
it?
and the whole thing is an origin story.
Not only is it an origin story of Miles Morales, but you also, like you said, get like a breakdown of everyone's origin as soon as you meet them, which is amazing.
Even
apart
Nicolas
from the
Cage.
villains.
Yeah, not so much.
You
with all of them.
do for Fisk.
Yeah,
but Doc Ock is just kind of. I really like the redesign of Doc Ock.
I love that female Doc. I like it when it clicks with him, where he's like, "Wait a second, what's your name?" Because
Are you known to your friends as Doc Ock? No, but I am to my enemies.
My friends call me Liv. I thought it was a great joke.
Yeah.
Really nice. I like that May called her Liv as well. There's there's some stuff going on there.
I was wondering with that actually, and feel free to cut this out. Is that because in one of the universes, I assumed that this Liv Octavius may have actually existed in comics and gone out with Peter?
Well, this is I think
Dr. Ock tried to marry Aunt May.
I was going to say, I think that was the reference. I think it's the fact that Aunt May knows.
Liv tried to marry Aunt May.
That's what I was hoping for. I thought that would have been a really nice little double tap.
That'd be cool.
Because there's a bit where Aunt May mentions about dating profiles as well, which I like the hint that like they might have had a relationship. I mean, it's all fan theory stuff, but if you
it's my headcanon.
Transferring a like sort of like gender bended Aunt May Doc Ock storyline, even in like the minutiae, is like a big plus.
And it worked fine. When it's done, in a way that, without loads of fanfare, it normalises it much better than when it's just like, guess what we did, guys? It's a lady.
And there were so many like subtle, nice little bits of world building. Like I really liked how. So there's an Uncle Aaron who, as with all Aarons, you shouldn't trust. Deadbeat. Just a graffiti artist who turns out to also be a supervillain.
That's right. Loves Biggie Smalls. Cool with killing children.
Yep. He's ready to claw it, but he's related to him. She's like, oh, I can't claw this one's face off.
Who voiced
Uncle Aaron? I don't know.
Because they designed him to look a bit like a mix between Common and Samuel L. Jackson's Frozone.
If it's Common again,
and I was kind of thinking, like,
furious.
They can't have just got Common in and then just gone, we'll make a new character design for everyone else, except for this character, who we're just going to draw your face on it. Is that okay? And he's like, yes, of course.
I think at this point he'd be like, I want to be in the film.
I was going to say, if it's not Common, he's going to be furious, because you're going to use my likeness. You know I love being in movies. It's my favourite thing.
Because Mahershala Ali was in it.
Yeah, he was.
And was he the dad?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah.
I'm not great at the voices.
I see.
I only knew that Chris Pine voiced the alpha Peter Parker because I looked it up on the way to the cinema.
I also quite liked that it was sort of like, I don't know if it was intentional, but it was Uncle Aaron who gives him his death, and obviously it was Uncle Ben who gives Peter Parker's death, and they're like A and B. I thought that might have been intentional. I thought that was quite nice.
That was wonderful.
I also think in their universe there's a series of ready-made sauces called Uncle Aaron's.
Definitely. I like the fact that he gave Miles the place to draw his artwork, and the reason he knew about that is because it's next door to the test site, which is where he's been hanging out. And I really liked that was coherent. And it makes sense as to why he'd know it, and it makes sense as to why the character we brought into that world. And I thought that was lovely. Like, again, there was just so much nice little world building there.
I mean, not very responsible, because
he's not very responsible. Uncle Aaron is not very responsible.
Miles down, and he goes, here's a place to do your wicked, like, graffiti.
This is where I do my evil shit.
And the throwaway line is, I had an engineering job down here once. Actually, what that means is, I'm employed by Wilson Fisk to be a big evil guardian for the enormous super collider about 10 metres that way past some tarpaulin.
I mean, yeah, but if he'd said that...
Mahershala Ali was Uncle Aaron.
Oh, shit. Yeah. Who was the dad, then?
Common.
No!
Racism levels through the roof here, ladies and gentlemen.
Brian Tyree Henry?
I don't know who that is.
Oh, he's the he's the other guy from Widows. They're both there. As in, so what? The two brothers from Widows are the two brothers in this film. What the hell?
This is wrong.
It's the brothers verse.
That's
it's
mad.
The Widowverse. Oh, fantastic.
That's maybe they come as a set now. That's
my personal. I mean, clever segue. My personal favourite piece of casting in this was Jake Johnson, who I love, as the Beta Cook version of Spider-Man, who was, like 40.
It's so hard to pick a favourite character, but I think from this film, but I think he might be my favourite.
It's him.
Yeah, he really steals the show.
He was absolutely. I mean, he wore over his Spider-Man suit. He wore sweatpants and was fat and was greying. It was just fantastic.
I thought he was wearing the sweatpants because his boots got torn off when he came through the rift.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. He is forced to wear sweatpants, is what I mean, and he's barefoot for most of it, and he's it's just so beaten down by life, but not because he's like he's had a hard life, obviously, being Spider-Man, but he finds the act of being Spider-Man so mundane. I love that, like I said, I love that Averse, Alpha Parker, despite being like 15 years younger, has his shit completely together.
Yeah.
Like, he's got a huge spider cave.
That's right.
And he's, everything's going well. He's married Mary Jane. There's it's perfectly loving. And then, like, there's this beta version of him just got to walk around. It's like if we got teleported to another life and it's just like an infinitely more together version of ourselves.
Yep.
And he's just taking it on the chin the entire time.
Yeah, no, I've never seen a divorced, almost bankrupt fat version of Spider-Man before.
No, it worked. He was endearing.
He wasn't that fat though. His gut kept disappearing because his film was cowardly.
I did
not brave enough to fully embrace a fat Spider-Man.
That was
I
true.
did notice that.
Yeah, that in certain like action scenes when he put the suit on,
it covered his gut again.
Yeah.
Well, I guess he was breathing in. Was he? He was like. That would have been funny to show at least. That would have been like a nice lampshade on it.
And then they could have also had a bit where he was like, "Man, it's really hard doing all this shit when I'm sucking in my fucking gut."
Yeah, no, or he could have been knocked to the floor and then his gut goes out and he gets unconscious. Like, that would have been a nice joke.
Boing, flaps out. That would be brilliant.
The gastro version of the butt flap popping out.
Exactly. It would have just been quite depressing. It would have been nice. But they're like literally only very small nitpicks with this because otherwise it delivers a pretty perfect showing. I loved the second act. Normally, second act is where it starts to get a bit weak, but I think that might have been its finest moment.
The second act hit like a high watermark, and I didn't feel bad when it. I'm not saying I was enjoying it less after that, but it was just an explosion of laughter and thrills.
I don't think
I'm like an asshole.
I don't think I've got any nitpicks.
I said I didn't.
I think it's fine. I think it's good.
Yeah,
I think it's a wholesome entertainment with enough nods to the Spider-Man lore.
Yeah, and enough just
really get into it. And it's funny.
Really interesting decisions as well.
Very funny.
And not Marvel funny.
No, exactly.
No,
it's actual funny.
Yeah. Marvel funny is so annoying right now. Like, Marvel funny, it's just, the film starts and then it's like, grimdark, and then someone's like, I just shit myself.
I don't remember that bit.
Yeah, no, it was Infinity War Part 1, mate.
Yeah. Do you remember when he's like, remember when he's just like, you shot yourself in front of the wizards? And Mark Ruffalo's just like, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Oh, no, Mark Ruffalo got performance anxiety. He had erectile dysfunction in front of the wizards.
Yeah.
I would still take Marvel funny over DC not funny or...
Honestly, because until DC recently got sort of just a bit okay, like I quite liked DC Trainwreck funny, but because give me because the thing is like if you give me a choice between watching like Suicide Squad or Justice League, like famous Trainwrecks, or like Doctor Strange or Ant-Man, I'll pick those first two every time because they're just ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I think what sets Into Spider-Verse apart from the rest of the superhero stuff is that it's willing to take more of a sort of a new angle to do the red letter media thing. A broken ground.
Also, it was about family.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
It's got lots of strange heroes, most of whom you won't know who they are unless you're Aaron.
But I like the the idea was it's sort of like it's a superhero team up film, but everyone who's teaming up is a variation of the same guy. That was it's so nice. I think like it's one of because obviously this happens in comics a fair amount, like you said, it's like standard Spider-Man fare.
Yeah.
And it's like one of the things that. Because obviously, as we see comic books, movies as they exist now, they are normally always roughly the same thing. It's like origin story into embracing identity into beating the bad guy. And that happens in this, but it's just layered around so much more interesting stuff. And it makes you wonder what I was thinking about for all those other films.
Yeah. And no, this is what I like about it, because in the context of the Spider-Man franchise, of all of the superhero movies, like the Spider-Man franchise is the one that for me has had like the most false starts, where at the point of Homecoming I was glad that they didn't go like full origin story, because I was sick of having to see it.
Yeah, I think they gauged that they knew that was the case, and so they knew they could riff on it, and they do. Yeah. Because like even in that first opening section in Averse, Alpha Parker, there's like shots from Spider-Man 1, there's like a shot from Spider-Man 2 with the train, there's a shot of Spider-Man 3 with the cars on the bridge.
And the dancing.
And the dancing. And God, yeah, there's the fucking Spider-Man 3 dancing. But it's different because he's just as Spider-Man.
Just as Spider-Man who's doing the dance.
I guess he's misremembering. Or that happened differently in that universe.
Yeah. But that's also what I liked about it. I mean, for this, it almost felt like, even though I get that it did ape on origin stories and stuff, it was a great leap forward as far as scope in the Marvel universe, because it went from, the lowly beginnings of a superhero to interdimensional fuckery inside the same film, and it never felt like it was a misstep. I liked it a lot.
I think it's quite good also that we've got so far into this without mentioning the visuals, because they are brilliant, and I think it'd be very easy to lose. To just go, it's really great looking, and then forget the rest.
Yeah.
And that's also, I think, something that sets it apart from what I'm going to defer the mainstream superhero films.
With your fucking turtleneck.
So, for example, Aquaman is... I think I read something that the director was irritated they weren't nominated for an Oscar for Best CGI.
He said it was... he used profanity in his protestation.
But I would argue that he would get an Oscar for most CGI. Like, all these shots become very cluttered, like Aquaman Final Battle, it's some of the Wonder Woman stuff, like when she's fighting Ares, just becomes ridiculous.
Yeah,
and all the Doctor Strange stuff gets a bit wacky. But this it would fill the frame with stuff.
Yeah.
But it would feel like it was meant to be there.
Yeah. And it was a creative choice.
Yeah, and I think the example that you used was when Spider-Man B and Miles are fleeing from a facility, he steals a bagel on the way out, and then throws the bagel at a pursuing villain. And then very small in the background is a little bagel, like the old comic book Biff and Boffs, came off their head.
As an action sound effect.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, they could do so much with that because there were thought bubbles and because there was motion lines and because there was impact sounds like a comic book. Then there was a whole layer of jokes there that you've just never seen before in comic book films.
So,
and there were two people very ready to exploit that.
Yeah, like with Spider-Man Noir, when he punched it was like Slug, Biff and Blotto, rather than Biff, Baff and Boff.
Yeah, Nicolas Cage is in this film.
Oh my god, in another standout role. It was only a few months ago that we were all, worshipping him in the movie Mandy, and now he's back to give us more.
I think he did the voice acting for this in between shots of Mandy, like he just got on Skype.
I would love that.
With Lord and/or Miller.
That's the one thing
Lord,
this movie...
Lord?
Yeah, Lord and Miller. That's the one thing this movie is missing. It's missing a Nicolas Cage freak-out scene. And me and Alec both agreed that, as they said that he appeared in Times Square, that would have been a perfect scene to have, where a man from a black and white universe appears in, like, the most colourful and busy part of America. And then you just let Nicholas... It's like, Nick, here's the microphone. Start screaming.
Here's the concept.
I'd have quite liked...
Here's a microphone.
I'd have quite liked it if Penny Parker, the anime girl, had also arrived and been, like, quite understimulated by Times Square. She was oh, my Times Square's a lot busier than this.
Way crazier in anime land.
So I was just looking at it, and I was interested on the way back about the post-credit scene that I thought was mentioned and that we didn't see. And I think it must have been further on. And so I did some brief research. Do you guys want to hear what it is?
Yes.
Because I think it's quite interesting. Yes. So there's another Spider-Man that gets shown in the end credits, and there's another one from the comic book, so I know. It's something called Spider-Man 2099, who's a Spider-Man from the year 2099. It's at the point... It's
ringing a bell. Is that like Batman Beyond?
Kinda, yeah. So it's at a point where the United States is no longer majority white, it's majority Latino.
Okay. And
he is called Miguel O'Hara. And he...
Beta O'Rourke.
Yeah, exactly. Much like Beta O'Rourke. And Miguel O'Hara is, again, a Spanish... I think he's a purely sort of like Latino Spider-Man, unlike Miles Morales, who is obviously half Puerto Rican and half African-American, I believe. And he is shown in the credits, and he's shown waking up and essentially just inferring that he exists.
Right.
Which I can only assume is sequel bait. But, I mean, if anything lends itself to a sequel, it's a multiverse.
Yeah.
But I thought that was interesting, and I thought it was interesting that they're taking probably like the third or fourth. I would say the fourth most popular Spider-Man, and drafting him in. And for reference, my official list of popular Spider-Men goes Peter Parker, Spider-Gwen, Miles Morales, and then Miguel O'Hara.
Okay.
So Spider-Gwen on screen as well. Sorry, I haven't mentioned it.
When you say list of Spider-Men, are these your favourites?
Yeah.
His favourites?
No, not only my favourites, but what I deem to be the most popular. They happen to coincide because I'm a basic bitch of comic books.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm really happy seeing Spider-Gwen on the screen. Spider-Gwen's something I've known about for about 10 years.
Nice.
I think Gwen Stacy, sort of her comic book origins is obviously sort of like being the incredibly plain girl next door who dies to motivate Spider-Man.
Yeah,
exactly.
She got fridged.
And so it's really nice. I really love that there's an inversion of that where Peter Parker gets fridged, and I like that they included that in. I think there's some really interesting stuff. Again, especially like if they're going to include Miguel O'Hara, like the Spider-Man 2099 stuff was pretty controversial among some people for just the implication that one day the United States won't be like a white majority nation. Which is probably true.
Yeah.
And so I like, it's interesting new ground. It's stuff that comic books touch, but comic book movies rarely touch. So I think that's really nice.
Yeah. No, I mean, so shall we talk about like where we go from here and how we think it fits?
I'd like to whinge more about the character designs, and by whinge I mean they're really good.
That's fair enough.
I thought that I wouldn't argue, because they put Daredevil in it. Not Daredevil, the other one.
Kingpin.
Kingpin, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What I was going to say was, did they put Kingpin in it and kind of hoped we'd all know who he was because of the Daredevil series?
I guess as well, because between like the TV show and the original Daredevil and the new Daredevil, I guess there's been enough Kingpin, and as well, he's sort of like almost an archetype of a character.
Yeah.
He's like the mafioso guy.
He's kind of omnipresent because I don't watch the Daredevil TV show and I know who Kingpin is, and not just from like the Batfleck movie. I think he's a fairly well remembered sort of Marvel villain.
Yeah, I would like to see him in more MCU stuff personally. I think he's good. I mean, he's never like especially when it comes to sort of like the Avengers and stuff. I guess he's never going to be sort of like the centerpiece. But I think he's like a really interesting character for. Whatever. What's the
Vincent D'Onofrio?
No, No, I'm trying to remember the Marvel has a version of the Legion of Doom, and I can't remember what it's called. But he's
Sinister Six.
No, that's Spider-Man's specific own version of them. But that works. What I mean is like he's good.
Yeah.
He's good in like a lineup because he can get things that he's powerful enough in New York. He can get things people can't. And I think he works well as sort of like a more grounded villain.
As a kingpin.
Exactly. As a linchpin. Character design, Peter Porker. Not only an incredibly faithful adaptation of the much beloved comic book character, but just really fucking funny. I don't know who they got to do it, but
John Mulaney.
Is it? Oh, there you go.
I assume by do it you meant the voice.
Yeah, the voice.
Yeah.
That's great.
But what I mean is, so
I love John Mulaney.
they got, but I didn't know that. But it's because what he was putting on was sort of like that, like quintessential golden age of Looney Tunes voice.
Yeah,
that works so well.
It's also just like his natural voice. He sounds like that all the time. So it's maybe why they got him because he just.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean. As in, like, but he fits. He is the part.
Yeah.
Like he invoked exactly what Spider-Ham's kind of going for because he's like. Bringing out big comedy mallets, big comedy anvils. I loved it.
I like Spider-Ham so much. Now, I appreciate that they would have had reservations about playing him too hard, but I was laughing enough that I actually could have done with a bit more of his comic relief. Every time he did a joke, I was in stitches.
I also thought that the villain stuff was really good because they just kind of go, here's a villain. They only named 2. Well, 3, I guess.
There's two of them are named in like opening tags. Like Scorpion bursts in and it goes Scorpion. I think.
So they didn't do that for Prowler. They waited for it took a long time for some of them to mention that it's Prowler.
Goblin was referred to as Mr. Osborn, if I remember correctly.
Yes, it was. At one point, Alpha Spider-Man calls him Harry as well.
Yeah.
And again, just like loads of nice little nods that this entire universe is sort of rolling on without you. I really liked it.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like I was watching the entire, like in some of those Marvel films where they link every single event to something. I was like, stuff just happens here. Yeah. So I mean, like villain list, it was quite comprehensive. So you had Prowler, you had Green Goblin, like I said at the beginning. Obviously the Kingpin, a female Doctor Octopus.
Yes.
What did we come in? Tombstone, I believe his name is,
and Scorpion.
So
you look like a Gorgonite.
So you got an actual Sinister Six there almost. So.
And they all looked different to how they are perhaps more commonly portrayed in other mirrors. So Scorpion is sort of like a tank dude.
Yeah, he didn't even really have his he didn't even seem to really have his acid cannon. It was just a stinger as far as
he's got no legs. He's like Force creeping
like Darth Maul.
No, not like Darth Maul. Dr. Lovelace in Wild Wild West.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Wicked wow.
I say, Mr. Parker, I will reclaim the South, and we will rise again. I'm Kenneth Branagh. I love spiders.
If someone could, if someone out there could dub like his dialogue playing as Scorpion is hammering on the anime girl's mech, I would be very happy.
Fantastic.
I like Tombstone. I thought that the redesign for Doc Ock was really good. I liked the tentacles was almost that sort of weird pulsing
like jelly.
plastic.
Yeah.
Like they were like they're inflatable or something. Like they made a Michelin Man. Like she'd killed the Michelin Man, was using his intestines.
Yeah, that's right. Had his cadaver.
Yeah, I liked her cool hair that made it look like the bag of an octopus.
So same.
Which is a cool design.
Definitely, I like
Fit
that
as well.
I like
what.
I like that she appeared previously in the school scene where she's like advertising the school. I thought it was a really nice setup.
She's a doctor.
Yeah, because even just seeing her in that scene and then talking to her made the reveal of her being Doc Ock so much more impactful than it would have been had she just been at the lab.
Because I've been playing a lot of the Spider-Man game on the PlayStation 4, and it's quite similar. And it's very sort of. Here is a reference to all spider elements, and their recreation of all these characters is quite sort of faithful. And so seeing, maybe that's why they chose to do it in a universe that wasn't the one we know.
Yeah.
So being able to play with these character designs a bit more, like Green Goblin is a huge, enormous beastie rather than Willem Dafoe.
Though he should always be Willem Dafoe.
Wilson Fisk is like a tank made of ham.
I mean, but he's a tank made of ham in a world where everyone else isn't.
He's a normal-sized dude. Scorpion is like he's almost like half man, half Scorpion, half Kenneth Branagh from Marvel.
Yeah, he's half Robo legs. Yeah. He's got what I guess is a Robo tail as well.
And like a Robo face.
Yeah, and he's Spanish, which is or Mexican, I guess. It's a really nice touch.
But with what you said earlier, Aaron, where you said, this is a universe that is rolling on without you, and how it really drops you in with it and expects you to keep up. Mm-hmm. As someone who's not in the know with all the kind of like the Spider-Man, specifically comic book characters, I really enjoyed that. I don't want to be introduced to everyone. It's like when George Lucas talks about the philosophy that brought him to make Star Wars, the first one, and how he wanted to drop you in the story because he was inspired by Flash Gordon serials where you'd come in and you didn't know the full story, but you would be swept up and enjoy it anyway. Like, people need to remember that that's a great way to make movies.
Yeah. You don't need to hold hands, and I think this is because I hope people, because I will point to this now, but like you said, along with Star Wars, and I think it's just so important to sort of immersing you in a world because I'm never more keenly aware that I'm watching a film than when I'm witnessing someone's origin story.
Yeah.
Again, they play that to their advantage in this one because there are 7 origin stories, but they're literally like the joke because they slap a comic book down on the floor and then they're like...
And they break the fourth wall.
Yeah, exactly. They talk to you.
Like you said, they know that you know in that situation that you're watching a film, so they're like, okay, we're just going to talk directly to you now, Aaron.
Exactly.
Did you ever feel sort of like lost and out of the loop with the Spider-Man stuff? Because, for example, when I was watching the Aquaman film, I didn't really understand who these people were, and I kind of felt like I don't have any interest in these stakes because I don't know who Patrick Wilson is meant to be or why he's the Ocean Master. And also, I think often with media nowadays is because a lot of it is reboots or franchises. You don't often get put in a situation where you are dropped into an ongoing serial. The closest I come to it is when I'm watching the trailer for Dragon Ball beforehand, and I just kept going, "Is that Shigeru Miyamoto?" And Aaron just tried to stop himself from strangling me.
You just said Shigeru Miyamoto.
Yeah,
son of a bitch. No, I did, like in situations where I didn't know where people were. In situations where I didn't know who people were, it wasn't a problem. I never felt. In fact, no, it's not that I never felt lost in it. I just felt lost in it in a really good way. You're
experiencing a story for the first time. You're like, this is there are more characters. Of course, there are more characters in this than just the people I know already. Because it's a world.
I didn't know that. Yeah, you said apparently big fan favorite Gwen Stacy as Spider-Woman. Yeah, I didn't know that Gwen Stacy was Spider-Woman in one of the comics, but she just showed up and I was like, got it. Accepted it immediately. I was like, okay, that's great.
She's in a punk band.
Yeah, she's
I always thought there would be more of a reference to that, but I guess again not enough time. But yeah, she's again really interesting comic book character, a character all by her own right at this point as Spider-Gwen. Probably more than anyone of our generation knows her as the actual just Gwen Stacy. Like I don't think anyone ever really remembers Emma Stone's performance as Gwen Stacy in Amazing Spider-Man.
I knew the name.
There you go.
That's who she plays. Yeah. I was trying to think, what do I know Gwen Stacy?
Exactly.
Was she in the Spider-Man game? I don't think she was.
Yeah, no, she is the famous girlfriend before Mary Jane. And yeah, I'm so...
She's also in Spider-Man 3.
I'm so glad, because Sony for so long have had such a rich vein of material to draw from, and it's so nice to watch them, I guess, in this analogy, strike a vein. Like
actually just mine.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's right there, Sony. Yeah. It's like, oh yeah, great.
Sony, stop. The comic book warming is starting. Build our oil rigs higher. Bring me more villains.
Bring me all the villains. Bring me Sandman.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Bring me a different animation style for Sandman as well. He will be claymation.
That would have been beautiful.
So obviously, tremendously positive all around. I want to ask you guys...
Where now, I guess, is the next one. Who now? I mean... Obviously, Multiverse 2, I'd be happy with. I think this is one of the first comic book movies in a while where I was like, shit, there just wasn't enough of that. I want more of that. I don't really mind. I mean, I imagine it will be another film. I think the art style and stuff is probably a bit too expensive for a TV show, though I think it would really suit a TV show. Yeah. Like, I can imagine him going to a different multiverse every week being a good piece of fun.
Do you think, though, that when we were coming up, a big animation movie would come out, they decided it was good, and then they'd dial back the quality of the animation and then release it as a TV show? Do you think that they could maybe spend less money on it.
They could. I mean,
I think it would be a shame.
I think if I was going to say, I think if you did, then you would have to do like one verse per episode, because then at least you could have a consistent style and invest in that style.
You could conceivably have 6 teams working on it.
Yeah.
Where you don't want it to become the boss baby of comic books, where the TV series is so much more negative in animation and quality, whereas the film boss baby is a masterpiece. I will not be taking questions.
Hans Zimmer score, I hear.
So many, and I respect that.
Did you know that? Hans Zimmer did the score for the Boss Baby?
Well, Hans Zimmer is
Just the score for everything.
the dirtiest toothless pirate whore that ever was.
I think I was having some trouble scrubbing something off a pan the other day, and he popped up saying, "Do you want a soundtrack to that?" No, Hans, go away. How did you get in my flat?
He sulked away. But yeah, no, I mean that, and as well as that, like, I know it probably won't happen, or if it does, then it will probably be in a much more limited sense than I'd like. But like I said, this is, Venom did set that this is part of the MCU. This is happening in a different multiverse within the MCU.
Okay.
I wouldn't mind some of this coming over. I don't mind if I have to see like a little animated Robert Downey Jr., like maybe when he's too old to play the actual Iron Man. Like, I think you could do a lot with that. I think that if I mean, it depends how you want to play it. Like, I guess if I don't really want cartoons alongside real people, so I'd rather have it that when they enter the universe they become cartoons.
Yeah.
But I think you could really do something with that.
That implies you don't like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which is blasphemy. And I will not stand for this.
There's only so many different things you can have going on in a film, and Into the Spider-Verse is already.
I think if you threw
if I threw like a Anthony Mackie sort of like staring like
next to Spider-Ham.
He's always Falcon.
Wonkily staring towards something because he can't quite see where the thing should be. It would just look a bit lame.
I would rather just, Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker delivering pizzas in the background.
That's the thing. So
with the pizza music from Spider-Man 2 and the PlayStation 2.
Yes.
I was listening to an interview with Lord and Miller, and they did say that at one point they didn't do it, or they didn't get to do it, but they wanted to have like a multiverse chase scene where they went to the Garfield, the Tom Holland, and the Sam Raimi Spider-Man.
That darn cat.
I can't believe Spider Garfield. Spider Garfield.
Kingpin stealing all the lasagna, Spider Garfield.
That's not cool, man. Would he be voiced by Bill Murray like he was in the live-action film?
Oh, weird Garfield fact.
My god.
I walked past the charity premiere of Garfield 2 and saw Jade Goody. Pre-death.
Was she in that film?
Oh, pre-death. So they haven't just wheeled her corpse out for it.
It was really weird.
Post-death, it's like, someone clean up Jade Goody.
Oh my god.
Someone remove this racist score. Sorry, she was the People's Princess.
Leave it in.
Yeah, I'm leaving that in. Sorry, Jade Goody fans coming for me. Oh wow, look out.
There's massive overlap with Check for Traps and Jade Goody enthusiasts.
Alec is willing to box any and all Jade Goody fans. Much like Uwe Boll, and if you criticise his films.
But I don't want PCB doing it because it should be beating up Jade Goody's mum, and I don't think anyone wants to see that.
Oh my god.
That's just dumb.
Where are you going next, Aaron?
I can't remember. I'm going to go beat up Jade Goody's mum.
So,
edit all this out.
Where does this one fit, guys? We must obey the structure. Where does this one fit for you in your favourite Spider-Man movies?
I think it might be my favourite.
Yeah, I'm going to say it's my favourite.
It's either that or like number 2 and then this, but I'm going to need some more time, I guess.
I mean, it's definitely something if Alfred Molina was in it somehow.
Yeah.
Because I really
always.
I really like Alfred Molina.
Yeah.
But as the fact that he's not in it, I will, But yeah, I'd say this one.
I think that, when I brought this up earlier, I think the thing is that I love Spider-Man 1 and 2 so much that I'm almost like in denial about this having so succinctly replaced them.
But the thing is, when was the last time you watched Spider-Man 1 and 2?
Oh, around the time
this morning
after after the Avengers came out. I wanted to watch it. Probably more around the time of Age of Ultron, actually, because I wanted to see how it influenced the newer ones. Yeah, the more I think about it, anything that they had, this seems to have, and the scope of them was just so much smaller. Whereas this, it's just everything was bigger, everything was better. It was more Spider-Man. Spider-Man behaved more like Spider-Man is supposed to.
It's the funniest superhero film I've seen in a long time. It was.
Fuck it, it's the best Spider-Man movie I ever saw.
Yeah.
It felt like it was trying to go the superhero route of Thor Ragnarok, perhaps, rather than it's bright and colourful and silly and funny.
Yeah, I can see that.
You probably couldn't argue that Thor Ragnarok started it, because I imagine this has been in production since before Thor Ragnarok, unless we've got really good at animating super fast.
Yeah.
No, I said, this took a long time for them to sort out.
Yeah,
I think this has been in production basically since they abandoned the Garfield stuff, because they were essentially like, if we're ever going to compete, we're going to need a gimmick essentially, and they were like, gimmick in the best sense. And it worked. Yeah, I'm excited for the next one. So nothing but thumbs up. Go see it. It's probably hard to see it. It's hard for us to see it. We had to.
We tried really hard to see this movie.
I wonder. I feel like it would be a shame if it didn't do well, because it's not taking a risk. It's a superhero film. Like, they don't take risks anymore. But at the same time, it's trying something a bit outside the usual.
Like you said, it broke new ground, even if it did take a risk. Because it's such a recognisable property. But the problem is, like, it's almost too recognisable a property. Because, like you said, we're tired of these. So there's the only way they could do it was really, like, lampshade hang. Hey, it's Spider-Man again.
I feel
times 7.
I think they're working about as hard as you possibly can within the confines of a studio superhero.
I feel that
they pushed it, much like they probably tried to push Solo, and like you said, they got kicked out for it. So props to them. They keep getting invited back by Disney and other people to do projects, and I'm glad.
They know that they're talented.
I think what I'd like for this to lead to is perhaps changing the mainstream of Spider-Man properties more towards the Miles Morales, the Spider-Gwen, the sort of different aspects. Because Peter Parker,
he's been played out. That's why
he's
they
kind of done.
Yeah, that's why they kind of sign him off. That's why they sign him off at the beginning of this film. They're sort of like, he's not the focus of any stretch of the imagination.
I would even say that I think the problem I have with Peter Parker, again, with how I think this franchise has too many false starts. They've started again so many times that we've had loads of Peter Parker, but it's always the same Peter Parker. And that's a shame. So if they were going to do, the later Peter Parker stuff, they should have done it by now. And another strength of this film with Peter Parker Beta,
they do the later stuff
in his 40s,
and it's good
and lazy.
And that again, that's something that's covered in comic books. There is something that covers the entire life of Peter Parker. And it's really interesting stuff. And again, it is nice to see like what happens with a character, even if it's the same character, not like a multiverse character, once they go past the phase in their life of which you know them in. Like that is that's quite a poignant question. And I would
Logan.
Exactly, like Logan, or like limitedly Dark Knight Returns with in the comics with Frank Miller. Like, this what happens when a hero reaches their kind of peak.
Right.
It's good. I want more. I want so this is it. It's almost like too good, because not only was it funnier, but it also did way more interesting things, like dramatically, than quite a lot of superhero films. And so I really just hope people learn from this.
Something I really liked in it, I don't know why it stuck with me, but it did. It was when all the Spider-Men's and women's and animals, porks are fighting the assorted villains in Aunt May's house. And Miles' dad pulls up, and it's just this little shot of this normal guy pulling into a street, and then just these two costumed weirdos swooping past and like bumping into the top of his car. I almost kind of feel like it'd be nice to sort of see a superhero property more from just the guy who's just hanging around near it.
Yeah, from the perspective of the person, just that I actually think that would be a great indie movie, like someone who's just living in the world of a Marvel Cinematic Universe.
And how impotent they feel. I think that would be great.
Like that episode of Doctor Who, Love and Monsters.
But
everyone's favourite.
Not awful would be good.
Fair enough. Well, I think we'll end on that massive deflation.
It's only bad because it's written by a literal child.
Can I say that there is actually a show? I've never seen it or ever heard any British person talk about it, but in America I think there is a show called I think it's called like Wayne Enterprises or something similar. Basically it takes the place of like Bruce Wayne's loser cousin.
Right.
And he works and lives in Metropolis, and it's just an office that happens to be in the DC universe.
Right.
And it's not very good. I think it's on like a shoestring budget.
Right.
And no one talks about it, and it might even be cancelled at this point. But that's the only time I've ever seen anyone even rightly try to do it, and it was done terribly. But yes, I would love to see that. I think it's a hilarious idea.
Done right, properly, yeah.
You didn't even need to use DC and Marvel heroes for it, really. You could easily just have generic heroes, like someone's watching like Blaster Man pass by.
I wonder if perhaps wouldn't have quite as much impact with generic.
Maybe, but it's just the idea. I mean, it depends on what you're focusing on.
I don't know.
If it's just the idea of being like sort of like a bit outclassed in your world.
I actually think it works because we're so used to with the MCU now there being at least 16 heroes, super gods on screen at any given time, than just being the guy, like you are in real life, driving in your beaten up second-hand car, like eating a donut, just like, oh, for fuck's sake, we're fucking up the city again.
But just, imagine if it wasn't, like, if I'm cycling to work and it's not the most extreme thing I've ever seen, if, like, a man flies past me, oh, at least he's not destroying everything today. Hey!
You're queuing to get your meal deal from Boots and Thor's in the way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like, lad,
you see the aliens jump out of hyperspace in the sky, and you're like, fuck's sake!
Yeah, you're like, not again.
I won't even get that many Instagram likes. Everyone's seen this.
Everyone's taking pictures. Yeah, exactly. People don't take pictures anymore because they're like, oh, fucking hell. No, exactly. I think there's a lot of scope for it. And I agree. It focused a lot more on the dad than many of these films do. Like, they normally they're only ever, like, sort of comic relief. But the dad was really one of the hearts of this film. And I think that was really important.
He had an arc.
When he arrived as well, like, when he arrived at the house or when he arrived at the Cosmodrome, no, what was it? It was a reactor?
Sorry, I thought you meant the dormitory where he was staying.
No.
The Stargate?
The Super Collider.
Yeah, Super Collider, thank you. So when he arrives at the Super Collider and when he arrives at the house, I was like, shit, he's in trouble. Like,
Cosmodrome.
Cosmodrome. I like that you thought I was trying to describe a dormitory.
Well,
what do you think's wrong with me?
Because that's where the cosmonauts live.
Oh, of course.
Before they go into space.
I'm glad. I like that. I'm flattered you think that's how my mind works. But yeah, like, I actually felt some sort of some tension for him. I felt some stakes. I think it was important. And yeah. It was really good.
Thanks very much for listening.
Yeah.
Alec is threatening me right now, so I do have to tell you all to like and subscribe.
Please don't forget to comment.
I'm literally beaming. I'm so happy.
You are smiling quite
You did it unprompted. It was very good. There you go. Thanks,
got a nice smile.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks everyone who's sort of watching and liking and stuff. There is actually people doing it, which is cool.
We really appreciate it. Thanks very much.
Bye.